Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Monday, September 16th. It is Victory Monday for the New York Jets. Man, it feels great to say that. It has been an awesome day. Mondays are always easier when the New York Jets win, of course, coming off the 24-17 victory over the Tennessee Titans yesterday afternoon. In Nashville, the New York Jets now shift their focus, get ready on a short week for the New England Patriots on Thursday night, the home opener. Cannot wait to be in the building Thursday night. Home opener, always one of my favorite games to attend every year. Environment's always awesome, and Thursday night is going to be crazy with this New York Jets team coming off of a big win yesterday to even up their record at 1-1. This is episode 385. Appreciate you all joining me today. Make sure to please like and subscribe for those of you tuning in on YouTube. And of course, appreciate each and every one of you tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcast. Today, similar to what we did last week against San Francisco, kind of just a news dump episode. We'll talk about some injuries, some of the updates Saleh had in his press conference this morning. And we'll also break down some more takeaways from the win yesterday, get into some of the good, still some of the bad, what still needs to improve. We'll break down some statistics, take a look at the offensive line, of course, talk about Will McDonald's big day, break down some numbers from him, just how good of a day it really was compared to what we've seen recently. So we'll break all that down in today's episode. As always, though, before we begin, before we get into the meat and potatoes of it, we've got to tell you about our podcast partners. Starting with our friends over at Huga House. Use promo code BUBS for 15% off. And you got to check out Huga House because Aaron Rodgers' special edition 20th NFL season hat has just dropped. It comes in two colors, all black, and this color here with the green brim. If you want either of these hats, click the Huga House link in the description or just obviously search Huga House and you will find the hat. Use promo code BUBS for 15% off. These hats are going fast. So if you want one, you're going to want to get your hands on one now. You saw me wearing this one on the screen the other day. If you want this one or, of course, the black one, make sure to check it out. Promo code BUBS for 15% off this hat and all of the hats at Huga House. BUBS, 15% off. Also, our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. Use my link to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first three deposits up to $2,000. My link can be found in the description of this video. Do you want to get in on the action in tonight's Monday night game? If you want to, use the link. 125% sign-up bonus, first three deposits, $2,000. And, of course, our friends over at SeatGeek. If you haven't gotten tickets yet for Thursday night and you want to get out to MetLife, the world's biggest air conditioner on Thursday night, head on over to SeatGeek and use promo code BUBSONSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase and get yourself out to the home opener. But not just that. If you want to hit up any other Jets games this year or any event, not just sports, not just football, plays, concerts, shows, you name it. If you can buy a ticket for an event, SeatGeek has it. Bubs on Sports, $20 off. Check it out. All of those links can, of course, be found in the description of this video. And I appreciate everybody for supporting me and all the support throughout the season so far. And of course, appreciate you all for joining me. So today, we're breaking down some more takeaways from yesterday's win. I will say this. The first Victory Monday every year is awesome. And it's a little bit different because for the first time, last year, the first Victory Monday or Victory Tuesday, I guess, was unfortunately after Rodgers tore his Achilles. This year, unfortunately, Jermaine Johnson goes down. But you get a victory, and you get a victory with Rodgers coming away healthy. And that feels great. Obviously, Rodgers joked yesterday about, how it was technically a second victory and how those four snaps were four big snaps in that game. So some humor there from Rodgers in his post-game presser. But we'll break down some more takeaways, though. I do want to get to the injuries first because there was some injuries specifically on the defensive side of the football, and there are some unknowns in terms of availability going into Thursday's showdown or showcase, rather, with the New England Patriots. So injuries update here. Of course, Jermaine Johnson, unfortunately, what was expected getting carted off the field, what was originally thought of a torn Achilles, does unfortunately come back as a torn Achilles. So Jermaine Johnson is done for the season. Awful news for him. Just a great guy, great piece of this team entering year 3. Really looked like he was going to take a massive year 2 jump, right? A guy that went into year 1, played kind of a developmental role as a rotational piece on a very, very talented defensive line in 2022. Went into last year, and we knew we needed to take a jump, put on size, put on muscle, and dominate last year. 7.5 sacks, was an excellent piece, turned into one of the better players on this defense. And you entered into this year and you had really, really high expectations, especially with Hassan Reddick out, especially with Bryce Huff leaving. Jermaine Johnson was a guy that was going to take over as really the team's premier edge rusher, with Hassan Reddick still holding out. And that just makes the loss so much huger, bigger, and that also just makes it for him so much worse. And you feel for him. Again, a great locker room guy, great young player, an excellent piece for this team. And you always feel for guys that play that position that suffer an injury like that, because so much of your success at the edge position and other positions as well, but specifically the edge, is your burst and your speed off of the line of scrimmage. And a torn Achilles can really, really hurt that. So you hope that Jermaine Johnson comes back stronger from this. You hope he comes back and is still his same dominant self. And I know he sent the video out earlier today on social media. He seems pretty motivated to attack this rehab, get back with this team eventually, and get back out there on the field. And, not that this is any good situation, but maybe he could potentially take some from Rodgers in terms of rehab and, potentially come back even stronger than maybe if you don't have maybe Rodgers potentially by his side, of course. So teammates got his full support, of course, on just an unfortunate situation. And now for the Jets, you look at it and you say, man, you're now down. Jermaine Johnson's done for the year. You still don't have Hassan Reddick on top of all the pieces that you lost in the offseason, JFM, Bryce Huff. So that edge position now, Will McDonald had a big day yesterday, which we'll get to here in a second. But that edge position now was already hurting. It is now really, really hurting with a young star in Jermaine going down. So hopefully he returns stronger. Just stinks to see that, of course. Unfortunately, the MRIs confirming what we had originally thought, of course, the torn Achilles. So that is the biggest injury story of the day. The others, at the time of Robert Saleh's press conference, nothing was actually confirmed with Jermaine. So Saleh never even confirmed it. It was Jermaine himself who actually ended up confirming it. And then I think a couple other reporters. But Saleh did have updates on 3 other players. DJ Reed dealing with the knee. Obviously went through pregame warmups. Never really gave a reasoning or what happened. Basically just talked about he went through pregame warmups, didn't feel like he was ready to go. The Jets don't know if he'll be ready to roll for Thursday. They will see. Of course, short week. A lot of these guys that maybe would be ready on a typical Sunday might not be ready to go Thursday. So we'll see. He's an unknown, but still kind of questionable as to what the heck happened with DJ Reed. Saleh said Friday, everybody's good to go. Everybody's healthy. DJ Reed pops up on the injury report and then doesn't play. Never really gave much of a reason, at least what I heard watching the press conference. Maybe I just missed it. But either way, DJ Reed still dealing with the knee. He's unknown for Thursday. As for CJ Mosley, Saleh feels like he seems more optimistic than I think he probably should be. Not saying that I think Mosley's not going to play, but again, short week. And it was an injury where it forced him to miss the rest of the game. It's not like he got banged up and played through it and, a couple days of treatment, he'll be back out there. No, this is something that completely removed him from the game. I don't know if he'll be ready to roll by Thursday, but he is dealing with a toe. Saleh wouldn't confirm, wasn't 100% sure if it's turf toe, what type of exact toe injury it is. If it is turf toe, you could probably rule out this week. Turf toe can be a couple week thing. So we'll see what happens with Mosley, but same thing as DJ Reed. He's unknown for Thursday. And Michael Carter II, little concerning. He had the ankle injury in training camp, dealt with the ankle injury yesterday, dealt with the ankle injury on Monday. Saleh kind of said it's going to be something that he's going to deal with all season long, where he's going to go in and out of games. He's going to get banged up. He's going to be on the injury report a lot. So not exactly positive news that your slot corner, who is one of the biggest pieces to your defense, is going to be dealing with essentially an injury that's a pretty big injury. An ankle injury for a corner is a pretty big thing all year. So hopefully he gets better. I mean, would it hurt if he doesn't, maybe if you try and give him a week off, try and give him healthy? He'll have the mini bye after this. If he does end up playing Thursday, they'll, of course, have a couple days off where he can rest up. But hopefully that's something that, hopefully it's something that doesn't worsen throughout the year. But definitely a little concerning. Saleh also said he's unknown for Thursday. So DJ Reed, CJ Mosley, Michael Carter II, all massive pieces, all unknown for Thursday. Saleh will speak again tomorrow morning. We'll probably know more then. Short week, injuries, always kind of weird. So we'll see how it all plays out over the next 24 to 48 hours. So that's the injury updates, kind of the bad. Now we'll get to the good. We'll get to some positives from the win yesterday. I have a whole lot of statistics I want to break down. Obviously, a couple takeaways as well, a couple things I noticed watching back to the film this morning. Finished it up a little while ago. So just some things that I picked up on film watching it back this morning. And then, of course, some numbers. I got to start with some offensive stuff. This offense has scored 6 touchdowns in the first 2 games. I know it doesn't quite, in a way it feels like it, in a way it doesn't. The Niners game was a little weird because one of the touchdowns, of course, came in garbage time. And then the other 2 touchdowns, you had the one big play by Rodgers, of course, or the one great drive by Rodgers, topped off with the Brees. Then you had the Lazard touchdown, but the offense barely had the ball. So it barely felt like the offense did anything in week 1, but they found a way to muster up 3 touchdowns. Rodgers to Lazard had one, Brees touchdown, and then, of course, the Tyrod to Lazard in garbage time. Yesterday, of course, you had the 2 Rodgers touchdowns, Breeland Allen, Brees Hall, and he had the Breeland Allen rushing touchdown. So the Jets through 2 games have scored 6 touchdowns. If you look at the last 5 seasons, 6 including this year, but the last 5 years dating back to 2019, how many games it took for the New York Jets to have 6 touchdowns? This is what it's been. 2019, it took them 7 games to score 6 touchdowns. 2020, it took them 4 games. 2021, 4 games. 2022, 4 games. 2023, 4 games. This year, 2 games. So that just in itself. Over the last couple years, it's taken the Jets 4 to 7 games to score 6 touchdowns. And here New York is with Rodgers under center for just 2 games, really like a game and a half because they barely had the ball on Monday night. But you get the point. 6 TDs in 2 games already. That's the shortest amount of games that's taken dating back to 2019. And I'm sure you could even look even further, 2018, 2017, when the last time the Jets scored 6 touchdowns through 2 games. It's been a minute. But that's just how good this offense, even with rust, even with them not fully gelling, this is an offense that we have not seen an offense play this well in so long. And they're not even fully 100% playing to the best of their ability. There is still a lot of rust. But that's just, I think, it's got to get you fired up if you're a Jet fan as to the limit for this team, how good this offense can get, where they're already doing some of these things. Some other stuff. First time Jets have thrown multiple touchdown passes in back-to-back games since week 8 and week 9 of 2021. If that 2021 run, what rings a bell? Well, that was the Mike effing White era. Mike White against the Bengals in week 8, of course, had the crazy game. You followed that up on Thursday night. Mike White ended up getting hurt that game against the Colts on the road. Josh Johnson then came in, threw a couple touchdowns. So that was the last time, 2021. The Jets went 2022. The Jets went 2 full years without having a quarterback without throwing for multiple touchdown passes in back-to-back games. The Jets have already done that here in the first 2 weeks. So impressive stuff there as well. So just some numbers I wanted to talk about overall with the offense. Now, I wanted to get to some Breeland Allen stuff as well. Breeland Allen yesterday, was so glad to see him go out there. And this is something, too, I picked up on film. You noticed it a little bit. I noticed it during the game, but even watching the game back this morning, you notice it even more. But a lot of 2 running back sets were used yesterday afternoon. And that makes things so much harder on opposing defenses. That makes things so much more difficult for teams to defend the Jets when you put Breeland Allen and Brees Hall on the field at the same time. It makes things so much complicated. It really keeps the defense guessing. And Tennessee, by the way, is not no slouch at defense. They're a solid, good defense. I mean, they held Chicago to under 100 passing yards in week 1. They've got a pretty solid pass rush. And, they did some good things early on yesterday. They've got a good defense. They are not, L'Jarius Sneed in the secondary, Tavondre Sweat, Harold Landry. They've got a lot of pieces. This isn't like they just got done playing against the worst defense in football. So I think a lot of what you take from yesterday is good from an offense perspective because they played against a pretty tough defense. Really, both weeks they played against a really tough defense. But in terms of Breeland Allen, yesterday had 20 snaps. He played 35% of the snaps. Breece Hall, 41 snaps, played 72%. Now, we talked about it Monday night, or last Tuesday, rather, coming off of Monday night, was the fact that Breeland Allen barely played until the last drive of the game. Didn't play at all until the last drive. And that was the case. Last week, I went back and looked. Only 9 snaps last week for Breeland Allen. 18% of the snaps. This week, that went up 11 snaps and went up 17% all the way up to 35. So really good to see there that we saw. They're calling them the Killer Bees in the backfield. So whatever nickname you want to coin to them too, they were great yesterday. And I would love to see more of that coming up here, obviously Thursday night. Love to see more of those 2-back sets. But on Breeland Allen himself, right, had the rushing touchdown yesterday, had the receiving touchdown, both big spots, the rushing touchdown on the game-winning drive to end it, or to put the ball back into the defense's hands where they end up getting the stop, of course, late in that game. But Breeland Allen is the first 20-year-old or younger player in NFL history. Now, he is the youngest player in the league. So the Jets have the oldest player in the league in Aaron Rodgers and the youngest player in the league in Breeland Allen, both on the same team, both in the backfield. So he's the he's the first 20-year-old or younger player in NFL history to have a rushing touchdown and receiving touchdown in the same game. So a little bit of history there made yesterday by Breeland Allen. And man, he was so good. I mean, I think he impressed maybe even more than what some people thought. Just, he was an absolute tank. A phenomenal day yesterday. Just the downhill speed. I think the speed was really present as well. We know what his strength, we know what his power is. But I think his speed, too, when he got to the second level, was really impressive. Kind of gives you, you're playing Tennessee. I know he's not there anymore, but gives off Derrick Henry vibes with the way he runs and the way he does things with the ball in his hands. That's how good he was yesterday. And I will say this, watching back this morning as well, that touchdown run, a phenomenal block by Jeremy Ruckert. And, of course, the entire right side of the line. John Simpson got involved on that play. Morgan Moses, of course, good blocking by all three of them, especially Ruckert, really opened up that hole. So good to see there. Some numbers there on Breeland Allen and some other thoughts on a big day from him. Now, I want to get to some offensive line stuff, and then we'll get to some defensive stuff as well. The offensive line has been awesome. And I got to talk about it because for so many years now, we have talked about the Jets offensive line every single week because it's awful. And that's the one thing about the offensive line. If you're not talking about it, it usually means it's good. And if you are talking about it, it usually means it's bad. But I want to talk about it because I want to give it credit. And I don't want to come across as some guy that only talks about the offensive line when I'm complaining about it, because we did a ton of that last year on the podcast. And I don't want to do that this year. Instead, I want to praise him. The offensive line was good in week 1. I thought pass protection good week 1. I thought run blocking was a little suspect. Yesterday, I thought much better. Run blocking was much better. The team averaged, of course, 4.2 yards per carry. And pass protection as well, I would say, even got better. Jets only allow, 1 pressure, 1 sack. But to give you some numbers on each offensive lineman yesterday, just how good the Jets were yesterday afternoon up front. And every guy. It wasn't just the left side, wasn't just the right side. This was a collective, all 5 guys stepping up. Tyron Smith, overall PFF grade, 3rd best tackle. Morgan Moses yesterday, 12th best tackle. AVT graded as the 6th best guard. John Simpson graded as the 9th best guard. Joe Tippmann graded as the 2nd best center. Only 1 pressure and 1 sack allowed. That was on Joe Tippmann. Even then, though, still a good day for him. So the New York Jets, in terms of grades, 5 offensive linemen, all 5 were in the top 12 yesterday at their position. including Tippmann second and Tyron Smith third. Now, when you take a look at pass blocking grades, AVT had an 87 pass blocking grade. Morgan Moses, 82.3. John Simpson, 81.9. Joe Tippmann, 77.6. Tyron Smith, 76.6. And shout out to the Jet Press, Justin Freed, of course. Shout out to them. They sent out a really, really cool nugget on those pass blocking numbers. The last time all 5 Jets offensive linemen earned a PFF pass block grade of 76 plus was week 4 of 2010. So you got to go all the way back almost 14 years because it was week 4. Almost exactly 14 years since the last time the New York Jets had 5 offensive linemen finish with a pass block grade of 76 or better. So, and by the way, I did some more research on that week 4 matchup. They took down the Buffalo Bills 38-14. Another note on the offensive line. The last time the Jets offense allowed 1 pressure in a game, you got to go all the way back to a year later, but week 11 of 2012, the Jets beat the Rams 17-13 at the time, the St. Louis Rams. So history tells us, not that this is shocking, when the Jets offensive line plays well, they win games. Yesterday, offensive line played great. Well, Jets come away with a 24-17 victory. Hopefully that's not the last time for 10 years we will be talking about this offensive line having a PFF grade of 76 or better. Hopefully we get that a couple more times this year from all 5 guys up front. And really, really good. And I want to give them credit because, of course, the offensive line is one of those spots where when it's not playing well, everybody talks about them. When they're playing well, nobody talks about them. That's just the way it is. So got to give him credit. It's been good. Some of those throws Rodgers had, the pocket he had, and some of those throws yesterday was just pretty. You know, you look back, you're watching the game, and you freeze. If you would freeze the shot, and the room around Rodgers is just so, so huge, especially coming off the injury. He needs to have time. He needs to be protected, and the Jets have done that. And knock on wood, 2 weeks, healthy. That's what matters most. So those are some offensive notes. Just some positive offensive notes. I think still receiving wise, you would still like to see them get other guys involved. I mean, Xavier Gipson potentially, I would like to see them out. He hasn't been targeted at all in 2 games. Garrett Wilson, of course, was the only receiver who had more than 1 reception yesterday. So still receiving wise, you would like to see a little bit more consistency, and of course there's rust with the delay games and stuff. Rodgers admitted that's on him. We all know that's on him, but there still are a lot of good things happening right now with this Jets offense, and they haven't even reached, they're not even full. I don't want to say full strength. That's not the word to use because they're healthy. They're not even fully clicking, I guess, if that's the phrase you want to use there. Some defensive stuff, some good. Then we'll get to the bad, or some things that weren't so good. Yeah, obviously, Will McDonald, we talked about it yesterday, was so good. But dug a little deeper. Some of the stats yesterday, he, of course, had the 3 sacks. That was huge. And this is big for Will McDonald. The Jermaine Johnson injury news is huge. It's even bigger from a Will McDonald perspective because now he really steps up right now as your number 1 edge rusher. And I know that's a little concerning because even with Will McDonald going out there and having that 3 sack game, he hasn't shown you a lot through, his first 19 games in the NFL, or 17 games in the NFL. Apologize. He had didn't play 2 games last year. He's played 17 games in the NFL. And he's had, of course, some moments of flashes like yesterday, but you still had to see it be consistent. But I thought this was interesting. Either way, Will McDonald last year, couple stats here, couple notes on what yesterday's 3 sack game was. So last year, McDonald in 15 games played had 3 sacks. Yesterday, in 60 minutes of football, had 3 sacks. So Will McDonald in 1 game yesterday matched his 2023 total with 3 sacks. So I thought that's interesting. That's always an interesting thing. Whenever a guy has a career game like that, compare it to his previous season to see how many sacks he got in 1 game compared to what he did all year, especially a guy like Will McDonald, of course, in his rookie year, didn't play a whole lot. Some other numbers on those 3 sacks. First Jet to get 3 sacks in a game since Jamal Adams in 2019. first Jets defensive lineman to get 3 sacks in a game since Henry Anderson in 2018. And he's the first Jet to have 3 sacks and a forced fumble, right? He was on top of Will Levis when he had that stupid pitch play. But either way, still counts as a forced fumble. First Jet to do that since Mo Wilkerson did it during the 2015 campaign. So McDonald becomes the first to do a few things since Jamal Adams, Henry Anderson, and Muhammad Wilkerson right before he got the disastrous contract. So those are some numbers there on Will McDonald. Great day, of course, for him. And like I said, the Jermaine Johnson's injury news, he now has to step up. And if you can get, not saying you're going to get 3 sack Will McDonald every single week. Nobody's going to do that. But if you can get a Will McDonald like this every week, or something like this, where he legitimately turns into a game breaker, turns into maybe what Jermaine Johnson was last year, right? Where he can be a 7-8 sack guy the rest of the year here. That's huge for this team. He needs to continue it. But on a day where you lose Jermaine Johnson, a day where the defensive line takes a huge hit when it was already struggling, Will McDonald infuses some hope to some Jets fans that, you know what, maybe he can step up. And you know me, I'm not the biggest Will McDonald believer, but he showed us a lot yesterday. He was huge. Big spots too. So hopefully he can continue that. And his role will only get bigger here. So that's some stuff on Will McDonald. Just some other numbers, some depth guys stepping up, right? Injuries. You, of course, had no DJ Reed. In comes Brandon Echols. We all know he had that interception yesterday. Really impressive play. But on top of that, his 82.1 PFF coverage grade was 4th best among cornerbacks this week. And he only allowed 1 catch for 4 yards. So really a very strong day for Brandon Echols. And I'll admit, give a lot of credit to Brandon Echols, man. He's just a good, solid depth guy. Every time it feels like he needs to come in, whether a guy's banged up during a game, he needs to come in for a couple snaps, or whether it's just DJ Reed or one of these guys missing an entire game and he needs to step up on the fly, he always makes a play. He always does. And a lot of credit. He's just a good, solid depth guy to have. Very reliable depth piece. Can step in at any moment, and he always feels like whenever he's out there, he makes the most of his opportunity. And he's one of those guys that won't get talked about much because he doesn't play a whole lot, of course. But whenever he's out there, he's always making a play. And yesterday, that was the same situation. Another guy that stepped up, Jamie Sherwood. CJ Mosley goes down. In comes Sherwood. I thought Sherwood and Quincy Williams yesterday. Quincy Williams was very good yesterday. I thought very good angles on tackles. I thought blew up a couple plays. It felt like wherever Tennessee at times was trying to run to, Quincy Williams was there plugging the holes, closing gaps, which was good to see. But Jamie Sherwood also had a huge day. Highest graded Jets defender. Most tackles on the Jets, 12 tackles, 4 run stops. And he also had a pretty good coverage grade. Of course, had the 1 pass breakup go off the back of his helmet. 78.3 PFF coverage grade. And he was the highest grade Jets defender yesterday and the fifth highest graded linebacker in the NFL this week. So really strong day for Sherwood. And I will say this, Sherwood's another guy. For the very limited time that Mosley misses, Sherwood has been able to step up in his absence. I always go back like 2 years ago, that one Bills game. When they beat the Bills at home, he stepped up. Yesterday, he stepped up. Sherwood's one of those guys that whenever, and it doesn't happen often, Mosley, unfortunately, yesterday goes down. Hopefully he's okay, but has been able to stay durable with the Jets ever since 2021. But when he has gotten banged up, or any guy's gotten banged up, Sherwood's been able to step in, and he's progressively gone better. And yesterday was really good for him. So very impressive day from him. So that's the good. Some bad from the loss, because there was, of course, some rust. And coming away from today, just taking a look at some of the numbers, rewatching some of the tape. Michael Clemens again yesterday was awful. Wasn't very good on Monday night, and wasn't very good yesterday. And I'll be honest, I don't want to sound ultra negative, but I really don't know what this guy does. I don't really know why he's here. I don't know what he does exactly, what the Jets want him to do. He finished the day with a 51.5 PFF grade, and he played 33 snaps and had 1 tackle. I mean, I don't understand what this guy does. He does nothing for this team. Nothing. The last thing we talk about the offensive line. If your name's not getting called on the offensive line, if they're not talking about you, that means you're doing your job. But if we're not talking about you on the defensive line, meaning getting to the quarterback, if we're not seeing you make an impact, that means you're doing a terrible job. And that's been Michael Clemens. I mean, he has done nothing in 2 games. And I don't want to hear, the 49ers, he had a sack. Give me a break. Purdy went down, and he touched him. That's not a sack. They credit him with a sack. He hasn't got a real sack. He hasn't even sniffed the quarterback. So, yesterday was awful for him. I don't really... And that's what stinks about Jermaine Johnson going down is Will McDonald playing so well yesterday, you could at least gain some confidence. All right, Jermaine, Will, opposite ends. Now Clemens really has to step up in a bigger role. But he wasn't good. He wasn't good at all. He was awful. He didn't do anything. 1 tackle, 33 snaps. For a guy that's starting on the edge, it's about as bad as it gets. Chuck Clark, too. I will say this. Chuck Clark's got to be a little bit better. And I really like Chuck Clark coming into the season, but first 2 games hasn't necessarily been what you want to see, especially yesterday. He had the 2 personal foul penalties, and then he also had that missed interception, which was, I don't know how he didn't grab that or at least break that pass up, just completely missed. And he finished the day with a 41.9 PFF grade. So he's got to be a little bit better. I feel like Tony Adams has been good so far, but Chuck Clark's got to be a little bit better, in my opinion. A lot better. He was not good at all yesterday. Also, a couple plays where he just missed tackles. I mean, there was one play this morning I was watching, and I think I saw it on Twitter too. It was they freeze the video. I think it was Dom C who tweeted out, and it was like, I mean, just it was Pollard right in front of him, and somehow he didn't make the tackle. So Chuck Clark's been a little disappointing. Got to be a little bit better. And the last player, Sauce. Sauce did not have a good day yesterday. And we knew that. We talked about that, I think, a little bit in the post-game show. He didn't play well. No new reason to panic. And I see all these Jets fans like, oh, Sauce played terrible. Sauce did this. Sauce did that. I think that's just just shows how good he is, that he's really has never had a game like this in his career. But he wasn't good yesterday. No doubt. 36.5 PFF grade. That's awful. By far the worst in his career. He had 6 targets, targeted 6 times, 5 catches, 97 yards, 1 touchdown. Seemed like he struggled a little bit with Calvin Ridley's speed. He had that one play early in the game where Ridley was on a slant and Sauce just got beat. Just kind of got blew by. He had the one play deep where he was on, of course, Ridley. Somehow, some way, Chuck Clark doesn't get it, but that's Sauce's guy. He ends up scoring that big touchdown. So not a very good day for Sauce at all. But, I mean, if you're a Jet fan and you're worried about Sauce, I don't really know what to tell you. I mean, he's the best corner in football. He's going to have off games. This was really his first off game of his career. I mean, really, if we're being honest, this was his first, bad game. Even in other games where he was off, where he allowed a catch or 2, this was his first bad game where he allowed 90 plus, almost 100 yards and a touchdown all in the same game. So, Ridley was beating him. He had his speed. Sauce really couldn't catch up to his speed. That's what it felt like watching some of the plays. There was also one play. It looked like there was a miscommunication. It was his guy, but it seems like it was miscommunication. So not that I'm making an excuse, but that's just seemed like kind of what happened. So, but all in all, look, it wasn't the best. There's definitely some rust, no doubt, but a win's a win. It's a victory Monday. And you get New England at home. And New England's been frisky, no doubt, right? They won against Cincinnati on the road, who almost went into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs. Then they go to overtime with Seattle, lose that game, but they were close. So New England's been stingy early on. But I will still sit here and say it's New England. It's Jacoby Brissett. And the New York Jets is their home opener. That building is going to be rocking all night long. So there is no reason the Jets should not win Thursday night and should not win by a pretty wide margin. So that'll do it for another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. Of course, with it being a short week, possible episode tomorrow. Stay tuned. Not 100% sure yet. Trying to see schedule-wise if we can get a Patriots content creator on. With it being such a short week, it's going to be tough. So stay tuned. Possibly tomorrow, another episode. Of course, if any other news happens, we will see. We will break it all down. If not, Wednesday we'll have our game preview because, boom, it's already ready to roll. Tomorrow, Patriots preparation starts because Thursday night game, quick turnaround. So quick week, quick turnaround. As always, hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, JETS. Jets, Jets, Jets.